And once we have understood kind of the potential of technology out there, then we go back and say, okay, would that help us in order to improve our candidate experience? Would that help us in order to be more efficient as recruiters? And then if there is a yes after that question, then we say, okay, then let's be a little bit crazy, or let's be a little bit more open and think of how can we use that tech in order to become better. And that is always kind of the starting point of some crazy ideas. But for me, it's so important to think big in the beginning, really think big.
Hi, I'm Johnny Campbell, CEO of Social Talent, and welcome to another episode of Hiring Excellence. Today on the show, I'm delighted to welcome a guest I've known for quite some time, who I've always admired as an innovative TA leader, who's always done some pretty progressive things over the years, which hopefully I'll get a chance to share some more information on. But Kerstin Wagner is the Executive VP of Talent Acquisition for Deutsche Bahn, an organization that's going to be well known to most of you in continental Europe, perhaps not as well known to those of you outside continental Europe, but Kerstin's going to explain a bit more. And Deutsche Bahn are going through a transformation in talent acquisition at the moment, like probably 99% of you, driven by changes in the workforce dynamics that we face looking for talent these days, and obviously technology, automation, and AI, which is out there. And Kerstin is no stranger to transformation and has gone through several waves in her career of transformation for not just Deutsche Bahn, but other businesses. So I have no doubt that her approach is going to be insightful to all of you listening, and you're going to learn a ton about Kerstin's view on the market and what she's doing with her team as well. Kerstin, you're so very welcome to the podcast. I can't believe it's the first time we've had you on the podcast after 5 years. So I would have maybe you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, give us a little bit about your career and history, where you're joining us from, and maybe some context to Deutsche Bahn for those listeners who are perhaps outside Europe.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for welcoming me here in your podcast. It's really, we were waiting quite some time, but it's really, I'm really super delighted to be here. And Deutsche Bahn, that's the company. We are hiring a lot of people, over 20,000 people every year. And we have a mix of different jobs we have to fill. So it's not only one job. So it's, we are looking for a lot of school leavers, over 5,000. We have blue collar workers. We are hiring for in many directions. So tech people, but also, service-oriented employees, as well as engineers and all the academic people, including the leaders. So it's a full range of people we are hiring for. And that makes it complex, but also very interesting, because you're really into the labor market. And that's something we do in a lot of cities. So we're not only sitting here in Berlin, where our headquarters are. I'm sitting here in Berlin, but we are in many locations, because the mobility sector and the train business, but also the bus business, that is kind of it's all over the place, because you want to move from A to B throughout, all Germany, and therefore we are basically everywhere. And therefore also my whole team sits spread out in whole Germany, in order to be close to our candidates and close to our customers. And candidates are our customers. That's kind of our philosophy behind, but also to be very close to the business, because we see ourselves as part of our business. We want to kind of consult the business in order to become better and to get better people. So that's kind of our design of the team. And we do that from scratch. So we have everything in our team, which is important for a modern talent acquisition. So we do employer branding, personal marketing, we do recruiting. We also have a tech team, a data team, a team doing just school corporations or university relationships. We have an own cross-border team. That is how we kind of see talent acquisition as a holistic function. And that worked out very well. So myself, I'm in that arena for quite some time. You mentioned it, Johnny, and did a lot of recruiting, also on a global scale, but also restructuring. And I also, know the other side and how to cope with the other side. So when you're in a restructuring phase, how to find new jobs for people. You have to restructure that. That I also have done. I kind of founded a temp agency. So that's really so recruiting, talent acquisition, labor market. That's my passion. That's my business, and that's kind of now years in the market, and therefore I'm keen on developing the function. You know, from day to day. Never stop changing, never stop, getting better every day. That's kind of my mindset, which I also want to live with the whole team. The whole team right now is 800 people roundabout, and we
Wow.
do the perm recruiting, but also the temp. We also have an own temp agency, so therefore we do the temporary staffing as well. So we can do it one stop shop kind of thing, and that helps us quite some bit.
And Kirsten, like apart from obviously day-to-day attrition, turnover, business as usual stuff, what drives hiring in the business? Is it, investments by the government in large infrastructure projects and upgrades, or what are the types of things that drive new hires on the desks of your team?
The reason why we hire so many people is not the attrition. So that is not our main challenge itself. The challenge is that we have a demographic change in terms of, so we are on average we around about 45 years old on average in our population. The population is around about 220,000 people in our
Right.
company. So therefore, a lot of people will get retired over the next couple of years. And actually, you can count that. Look in your HR numbers, and you know that you really definitely have to replace all these people. That's one thing. The other thing is we definitely wanna grow, and therefore we need people to do that. And then the third pillar is that we we are looking for completely new job roles. We are looking now for completely new skills. I think that's something all TA experts kind of have see it in the market. So when I think, over the last whatever couple of years, all of a sudden, complete new job roles kind of get designed in the market, and therefore we also have to hire completely new skills, and that's the reason why we have such a volume to hire every year, and that will stay like this.
So you've got demographic challenges. You have obviously the issues around growth, like everyone it's a great opportunity. Growth is something you're trying to hire for. And as you said, the changing and evolving nature of the roles themselves. Tell me about the actual environment you're hiring in, particularly for those recruiters listening outside Germany, right? Because we have folks who listen, leaders from all over North America, Asia, Europe, South America. So give us an introduction or a summary of the labor market in Germany as it affects those three pillars that you're trying to
Mhm.
hire for.
Absolutely. Um, so we are not right now, but we are since a couple of years in a market which is getting tighter and tighter, especially in kind of a specific function in a blue collar area. If you take, for example, an electrician, so that is kind of a really tight labor market. So I would say, like overall, like in the tech sector, like all the tech functions, that's kind of getting tight. But also you have the tightness also in the new stuff, like data scientists and cybersecurity people and all that. Everybody is looking for right now. That's also phenomena we're having in. And actually, we are currently in a split labor market because on the one hand side, we have this tight labor market. And if you just take the poor numbers in the market and you see, how many people are leaving schools, are leaving universities in that specific functions, then we definitely have even a tighter labor market in the future. And on the other side, you have a lot of restructuring going on in the market. So a lot of people are coming into the labor market, but not only in these areas where we are currently looking for. And that is something, so that's the split labor market. So we have the tight labor market, and on the other hand, you have like an overcapacity in some areas. And that's something we really see, and that's kind of the challenge in the labor market. And what you can't forget is at least how we experience it, the candidates in the labor market are also expecting different things. That it's also kind of, they are changing. The expectation of candidates are changing over time, and that is also something we have to look into. So we really have to know our candidates very well, our customers very well, in order to kind of have the right method or the right kind of contact in order to kind of enthuse them of our jobs.
Kirsten, it seems we can't go through a single episode without mentioning AI these days, but you're no stranger to technology, and I alluded to it at the start, but I remember over the years seeing many of your initiatives, your team's initiatives around the adoption of technology, whether it was augmented reality or other different initiatives in the career sites. And actually, you were typically, many of our audience might know you as a speaker at conferences, talking about some of the most innovative things that you were doing, which typically were ahead of private organizations and others in the industry. So your team's no stranger to technology, but how do you see this current, generation of technological disruption with AI? Do you think that's a big thing in terms of both how perhaps candidates are applying for jobs, showing up for interviews, their perceptions being changed, and also how we as an industry perhaps need to also embrace the technology and perhaps think about how it goes into our processes?
Oh, um, I like that question, Johnny, because it's kind of um, technology plays such a crucial role. And what we did since years, um, we are always exploring technology, what is out there, what is feasible. Not, first of all, in the context of talent acquisition, but what is up there in the market, what is there in order to, and then we want to understand the technology. So we really have to dig deep in that stuff. You just learn it in a second. And once we have understood kind of the potential of technology out there, then we go back and say, okay, would that help us in order to improve our candidate experience? Would that help us in order to be more efficient as recruiters? And then if there is a yes after that question, then we say, okay, then let's be a little bit crazy, or let's be a little bit more open and think of how can we use that tech in order to become better. And that is always kind of the starting point of some
Mm.
crazy ideas. Um, but for me, it's so important to think big in the beginning, really think big. There is no border, no limit, but you have to spill out the most crazy idea you've ever had. And then we can talk about how we can improve that idea. Maybe it's too crazy to implement. Maybe there is something we really should think about it and slice it and dice it and kind of get it ready to implement in the market. And that's the mindset we normally approaching new stuff. That's a lot of fun, also a lot of work, but that just works if all our brains and the team work
Mm.
together. It's not a matter of hierarchy. It's not a matter of, my leadership team has an idea, now we improve it, kind of, or implement it. No, it's a matter of we really kind of ask everybody in the team, and we have so many brilliant brains. Why shouldn't we use them? And that they are in a daily business. They know what they need in order to get better to a candidate or improve a process. And therefore we ask them, we kind of let them contribute, and they have to spill out all the ideas, and then kind of we think about it, which idea would be a good one. And the same thing we do with technology, with artificial intelligence now. So it's also a bottom-up approach in the first row. And actually, months ago, I would say like not only years, I would say a year from ago. There were some recruiters, and they started. Oh, we have to do, do some use cases with artificial intelligence. Let's think about how we can use it. And so they came together and kind of, defined some use cases. They did prompting here, prompting there. They kind of try to figure out how we can get more efficient or better in terms of candidate experience. And that is this bottom up approach, which help us so much, because that's the mindset everybody is working on. And now we have like a artificial intelligence hub where all these people in my team come together on a regular basis in order to work on all these different cases. And that was the
Right.
beginning. So we didn't do like, now we have to do artificial intelligence. No, it came from like, the operations itself to say, look, there is a super case we have to kind of now implement it. The same for using RPA, robotic process automation. These are some smaller cases which helps us so much. Sometimes it's a nightmare in order to do this manual work and whatever list and stuff. Then just next program kind of some RPA, and here we go. It helps us in order to free up recruiters in terms of focusing on the candidate, our customers, and that helps way more value than doing the other stuff.
We had Deepak Gupta, the head of TA for Amazon, ads on the podcast earlier in the year. He describes something which I think is similar to what you're describing, which was more of he called it a micro apps, a focus or approach to AI, where there wasn't one big enterprise-wide piece of software that they were looking to procure to do everything. They basically let the recruiters loose on developing micro use cases for AI that should drive in each instance probably a small efficiency, but the aggregate of all of those micro apps was massive efficiency. And he talked about, in their world, there were a small volume of hires that are very high value to the organization, and a 9-month hiring cycle, which they got down to 3 months, not through one innovation, but through 50 innovations, and developing this bottom up culture of go find problems to be solved and solutions for those, and then the freedom or license to go solve them. Is,
Yeah.
is that an accurate way to describe your approach? That kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
micro innovation, and
Yeah.
not one problem but many problems to be solved.
Absolutely, because innovation is not the one big idea, the one
Mm,
big thing. It's, as you describe it, like these little things, like a process, where we really, think of, should we get rid of the process itself? First question, or can we kind of do it smoother or faster, or super automated, and not just that somebody has to kind of do stuff. So these are the questions we're going into that, and that's so important. And therefore, it really has to be linked to the business, and therefore it's not, oh, we have to have now a cool AI tool. No, it always have to solve a business problem, to
sure.
solve something you want to improve. And if that's the case, then we definitely do that. We're not doing it for having a award afterwards or stuff. Solving the problem, and that's the key thing. And therefore, and that's innovation. You can do it with technology. Sure, that's super important now, and it's really like every day we have like new ideas and stuff how we can move forward. On the other hand, innovation also plays a crucial role in non-tech areas. Um, so, for example, we have a challenge of, if you're like kind of this field approach. So I'm not sitting only in the main cities in Germany. I have to recruit also somebody like in a 10,000 people city, like in a smaller city. And there you can't do a huge marketing campaign. There you can't have a super recruiting office. So you really have to figure out, how can we go into the communities itself in that small town? How can we do that? How can we build up relationships? And that you can't do with artificial intelligence, you have to do it, in person. And that's also, innovation. How can we tackle that, and how can we kind of do the relationship building with communities in that town? And therefore, innovation is kind of tech, but also the non-tech area, which is also very important in my opinion.
But do you see that innovation that might drive, let's say, the usage of AI or PA to drive a more productive process or to improve productivity allows you then to innovate in the, call it, more human-centric methods or processes where more time has been given to those relationships, or someone can go out and work in a community or talk to more people, make more phone calls, whatever that might look like. Do you see those connected that way, that you need one to drive the other, like with limited amount of resources and time? We all live in a market where we're being asked to give more with less, every one of us.
Absolutely.
So is that how you see that philosophy?
Yeah, I will definitely see it this way. So efficiency and innovation goes along.
Uh,
So innovation, sure, also kind of enables productivity and efficiency. Definitely one thing, and we really have to, you know, be very good at that. But it also, on the other hand, frees time up in order to kind of focus more on the candidate. And that's also our philosophy. So we really tech savvy, and we really focusing on tech. But on the other hand, the human still makes the difference. That's at least what we see. So think of a world where everybody uses all the artificial intelligence you can use in the market, and still, at least today and tomorrow, you have this, you can make a difference with a great recruiter, kind of, have the hook, understands the candidate, and kind of give the right answer to the candidate in order to kind of, tell the candidate, look, that's our culture. That's what you can expect when you work with us. And that's something, so I haven't seen an artificial intelligence so far that really kind of can replace that dialogue and that relationship, and also, from a candidate's perspective, they are looking for that. They want to know, at least our candidates want to know,
mm.
where do I end? What is the culture? How are they? How are my colleagues? And that is something, this experience of what is the package I buy if I really accept an offer. That is something we really have to focus on as well.
We've talked a lot about improving processes, dealing with the people in the funnel. But when it comes to innovation, how do you think about innovating to drive more top of funnel? Because you mentioned some of the challenges demographically and competitively for skills. So how are you thinking about activating new pools of talent? And what does that look like for you?
Um, that's a question we ask ourselves constantly, because with that tight labor market, sure, you can say, okay, it's a tight labor market. We did our best, but we didn't find the candidate. That's not a solution. And therefore, we started to kind of look, dig deeper in the candidate market in our own country. And there are some target groups we haven't addressed so far in a very focused way. So, and there are kind of, so we have a full-fledged diversity strategy, but it's not only a strategy, we also implement it. And therefore, we focus on the target group of women. We focus on age. It's a target group which is not very kind of in the middle of all our activities so far. But if you look how many people are in that group of over 50, for example, and in Germany you have to work until 67, um, you still have to work for 17 years. So I think that's it's worth a look, that we really have a look higher this target group. And we also started a campaign with protagonists of this age range, and that was something basically new, that we really have to kind of, that we really put that in our campaign. We really addressed this specific target group with all their expectations, their needs, their what they but we have to kind of sometimes break the barriers in the mindset all of
Mm,
hiring managers that over 50 doesn't mean like you're not able to learn anymore, or you're not able. These are experienced people, and that is wonderful. If I'm look for an engineer and I find an experienced engineer with whatever 30 years of experience, that's kind of a super win. And why not digging deeper into that? What we also do, like people in Germany with a migration background, for example, not speaking the language. We also digging into these communities in order to kind of address them and bring them on board, train them for our jobs. And what we also do is we have kind of a if you already learned a job and you say, okay, I'm up for a new job or a new profession. Normally, it's hard to switch if you are already in your job. But we offer for some jobs like train drivers, for example, or the rail traffic controllers, that you already have a job, you already got to school, but now you start all over again, and you can learn the job within 12 months. Which also, so we also have a new potential in the market we can address. And um, we also enlarge our own talent market. So we go cross border. So we hire from other countries. And that's also something you really have to focus on. So that's a special team with recruiters basically from these countries we're hiring from. So they speak the language, they know the culture, they know how to address people in the specific markets. And we do that since 2019. And we're hiring people from around about 15 countries. And that is something you really, that's kind of a hard work, because you have to explore the markets, and it's not
mm.
just, oh, I hire the person and then woof, off we go, and they just move to Germany, and it's easy. No, it's we have to train language. In most of our jobs, you have to speak at least German in a way that you can make yourself understandable. And you also and we also have to train them in many cases in their profession. And then we also help them to get visa and get the whole process done, including then the pre-boarding and the
The
integration in that
mobility.
specific
Yeah.
team. Now that is something that's kind of a manufactured work, but in my opinion, it's a pipeline we definitely need in Germany, and we definitely will stick on that path to explore more countries and do that and scale up like our method, how we do that right now.
So it strikes me, Kirsten, that the team, and you've mentioned the team quite a bit in terms of not being top down and leveraging the ideas of many in the team. You require a team to be quite versatile, open-minded, innovative. Their tasks aren't just there's the rec, source on LinkedIn, engage, schedule, next rec. I met a friend of mine over the weekend who works for I won't name the company, but let's say it's one of the big six tech companies,
Mhm.
and he's awesome, uh, and he's in his 50s, and he said the job is literally just to rec after rec do the exact same. They do not want any deviation from this process. He said it's the most mind-numbing task in the world. Pays well, good environment, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, he kind of secretly hates his job. And I imagine someone in your team is dealing with such variety because, as you said, you could be dealing with a small town of 10,000 and hiring from there. You could be trying to hire from one of these 15 countries overseas and dealing with language issues, skills issues, trying to upskill somebody, relocate somebody, match a candidate for a role that didn't exist a year ago anywhere because it's a new type of technology or new process, et cetera, et cetera. So your team very much don't sound like the traditional, here's a rec, fill, copy paste over and over again. They require that mindset of innovation. So how do you drive that? Like, what kind of, I imagine you must really have to embrace a learning culture. You
Yeah,
must have to try and do
yeah.
some things very deliberately, Kirsten. That doesn't happen by accident. So what is your secret? How do you drive that? And how do you think about the role of such a culture in new technology like AI and automation?
Hmm. Um, so that is something which is very important to me because you can't just tell everybody now we have to be innovative now. Period. Doesn't work. So you really have to kind of design the environment and kind of enable the environment that innovation can happen and that all these stuff can happen. And therefore, first of all, we really drive a learning culture. That means we have our kind of own academy. You can imagine an academy where we offer a lot of trainings. Actually, the trainings, mostly we do ourselves because we have experts for all these things in our team, and therefore they share their knowledge, their know-how to the other colleagues. That's one thing. So we have like 1.5 person just driving this learning environment and academy. And the challenge was you never have time to learn. And
Mm.
I've heard that a couple of years ago, and like, oh yeah, that's all interesting, but I don't have time. I have to fill my recs, but when should I do that? And the easy answer was, we do a learning time. We install a learning time for everybody, and it's not Friday night at 9 o'clock. It's Monday morning, 8:30 to 10:30, and that's a block in all our schedules. So, and it's kind of forbidden to do an interview there or to do a team meeting there or whatever. And that helped to kind of, put that learning and the investment in yourself like so importantly in the calendar. And that also helps us to be very speedy because we know everybody has blocked that time in the calendar. So we can say, oh, well, there's no process. Or we have to kind of tell everybody, how to do prompting or I don't know, artificial intelligence things or how to use that specific data pool or something. So I don't have to wait like the next 4 months. Actually, I can decide today and we do it on next Monday morning. And that helps to be very quick. That's one thing. The other thing is you have to be a role model itself. I can't tell people, look, um, be innovative, and I don't embrace technology and innovation myself. And you really have to live up to these things. And therefore, I always tell people there is no idea which is too crazy, but you have to spill it out. Then let's discuss, as I mentioned before, or hierarchy doesn't play the role. So also in my team, we don't have a lot of hierarchy. We have like it's my leadership team, and there are team leads. Period. Two levels. Period. So therefore, we can be very flexible and agile, and therefore, so I really want to listen the ideas bottom up from each recruiter. And for example, last week, I do kind of so regional meetings. So 100 people come together in the region, and there is no dog and pony show in terms of we do big presentations and stuff. Our boss is coming, we have to do stuff. No, there's one thing on the agenda, and that's discussion. Q&A, discussion
Mm.
on, what bothers you and, what should we do differently? Where are we? What is the status quo? How can we improve? And if I discuss that, I don't accept that we just make a list of all the problems we have. No, we discuss a thing and we we kind of in a minute, we go in a solution room and say, okay, that's a problem. That's a challenge. What's the solution? How can we tackle it? How can we, think a little bit bigger? How can we do that? And that is, that's kind of the discussion culture we have then, and it helps. It helps me to understand even if you look at the smaller challenges, but if you take all these smaller challenges, it's a huge challenge. And therefore I understand, what bothers people. How can we solve that? What can I do in order to become better? Maybe, I talk to another colleague in order to kind of, whatever, minimizes a problem or stuff. So on that helps so much to have this discussion on the front line, and that is something. And we do things quickly. Once we decided to do stuff,
Mm.
we are not waiting for years in order to get it ready. So we get it ready, 80%, 90%. We do a use case. We try it out. Maybe it's a good idea, and there are sometimes ideas we then kind of forget about it afterwards, but still we try it. And that is something you have to live up every day, that people understand that's the mindset we wanna live. And even if I hire new recruiters and new people for the team, that's always a question, how do you make sure that you're innovative? How do you make sure that keep up with the pace in the market? Where do you learn? Where is your learning source? And that's something which we definitely also do in our own hiring process to make sure that people know what they can expect when they come to us.
If I can steal and modify the phrase from Facebook, from Zuckerberg, it sounds like you learn fast and fix things in the TA team in Deutsche Bahn,
Yes. Yeah.
which I think is a much better approach. Chris, I can't believe we're at time already. I have 100 more questions I can ask you, and I'll get the time to ask you them more one-on-one. But for our audience, maybe we could finish on this one. How do you see the balancing of tech and AI and the human in the loop in recruiting going forward, as you look forward for the next 5 years, with all of the changes that our industry is discussing and playing with? What are some of the tenets or principles or beliefs you have around that mix, that correct mix?
Um, Actually, um, we have to make sure that everybody is understanding that we are in the midst of, I always call it a job revolution, because AI and all the tech things will change our jobs. I think most of our jobs in some ways. And that's the status. And therefore, there will be also change in our roles and recruiting roles, and we have to embrace that. Um, so I'm a big fan of using tech to a maximum in order what we discussed, that we really are efficient, that you can focus on different things. But on the other hand, the human loop is so important. Sure, with technology, you also could do a whole recruiting process without any human. Um, but in my opinion, it has to be a balance, because humans want to talk to humans, and they want to understand with which human you will work whenever you start a job. And therefore, I think it should be a balance, but it's not the quote that I don't want to have tech. No, tech to the max, but also human in the middle. And that is something we have to really kind of link. It's a strong link, and if you have a good balance there, I'm very positive and optimistic that that's a great path.
Well, let's not leave it 5 years till we have you could come back and share the story of the innovation of the team. I've no doubt come the speaker circuit next year, we'll be hearing all about how Deutsche Bahn is pushing tech to the max whilst embracing the humans in the loop as well. And looking forward to hearing more about what you and the team are doing. Kirsten, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your time. I know it's been a busy day, and this isn't your first interview as well today, upon balancing everything else that you have to balance, but it's really appreciated. And I hope our audience have taken a lot from that, as I'm sure they will have. Thank you, Kirsten.
Okay, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
No, Tom, thank you for listening and for joining me to hear what Deutsche Bahn are doing on scale. Huge team, a lot of hiring complexity, a lot going on in the macro environment as well, and how the team is showing up from a bottoms up perspective and really learning fast and fixing things and getting things done, which is something we should all aspire to do. We'll be back again next week with another episode where I'll be joined by another great guest to talk about hiring excellence and how that's playing out in their world. Don't forget to follow us on your podcast app, Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your podcast these days. If you like this show, give us a like, give us a 5 stars. If you don't, pretend I never said anything. Go away and don't give us any stars, and don't poorly rate us either. But we'll be back next week with another great show. Until then, take care. We'll see you then.